So those were a couple of one-step conversion problems. What if we have more than one step? Here, the solution map becomes more important. So let's do this one. Convert 194 centimeters to feet. So the number is 194, and the unit is centimeters. So that's what we're starting with. And we're trying to find the quantity in feet. Well, anybody off the top of their head know how many centimeters are in a foot? I don't. 2.54 centimeters in an inch, right? We know that. 2.54 centimeters equals an inch. But I don't remember how many are in a foot. Whoops. Got that backwards. Well, we could figure it out, but I know a relationship between inches and feet. 12 inches equals 1 foot. Sometimes it's really not convenient to try to come up with that direct conversion factor. And so we need to learn how to do multiple step problems. So I know these two. So I could go from centimeters to inches using this one, and I could go from inches to feet using that one. So I could do this in 2 steps. So here I'm jumping to a rock in the middle of the creek before I'm jumping to the other side. So I'm going to go centimeters to inches to feet. So once I have my path, now I can make my equation. 194 centimeters. How many arrows? 2 arrows. That means 2 fractions. Times equals. Centimeters to inches to feet. That's what goes on the top. Centimeters to inches to feet. That solution map is the key to everything. I want to get rid of centimeters, so I'm going to put centimeters in the denominator of the next term, so it's going to cancel out. And I need to get rid of inches, so I'm going to divide by inches over here, and those cancel out. Units first. Once I get the units worked out, then I put the numbers. I don't have to remember, am I supposed to multiply by 12, divide by 12? I don't know. The units tell me. So here I have inches on top, centimeters on the bottom. I look at the relationship, and I put the inch side on top and the centimeter side on the bottom. 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. So I've got 1 foot on top and 12 inches on the bottom. And now I just commune with my calculator. 194. You can multiply by 1 if it makes you happy. It's not going to affect anything. You can skip it also. Divided by 2.54 times 1 divided by 12. Thinking ahead, significant figures, how many sig figs should my answer have? 3. This has 3. This is exact. That's exact. So 36. I should have 3 sig figs, so I'm going to write down 3, and then I'm going to write down 2 extras in the unit, and then I'm going to round. And so because the 4 is less than 5, this will be 6.36 feet. That's the answer. And then you should ask yourself, does that make sense? Is that reasonable? One way to do this is what I call the bigger, smaller rule. Here you have centimeter and feet. Which unit is bigger? Which is longer, a centimeter or a foot? The foot's longer. So foot's the big unit, centimeter is the small unit. The small unit should have the big number. The big unit should have the small number. Bigger, smaller rule. That tells me I probably didn't do something upside down. Any questions? Let's do another one. A recipe calls for 1.2 cups of oil. How many liters of oil is this? So I know that we can Google this. Oh, I can't say Google. I have a cool app on my phone that does all these conversions for me. That's awesome. But we need to learn this technique because we're going to be doing something called stoichiometry, and you're not going to be able to Google that, and you're also not going to be able to Google things on a test. So we have to learn this. So do it using dimensional analysis, and then feel free to use Google to check your answer. Look up the answer online, but you have to be able to write these things out, or you're going to have a hard time like next week. So what are we starting with here? Cups. So 1.2 cups of oil, and we're asked to convert that into what? Liters. So I'm going to put liters over here. Now we have to figure out how to get there. We're given this one. 1 liter is equal to 1.057 quarts. So I've got the beginning and I've got the end. Sometimes you can just start at the beginning and go straight through to the end. Other times it's not very clear, and you may need to start at the end and work backwards and then move from the forward and try to get it to meet up in the middle. This relationship that's given tells me that if I had quarts, I could find liters. So I could have quarts in here and go to liters using that conversion factor. And then I have to figure out how to get from cups to quarts. This is the ridiculousness of the English system. There's a unit in between. There's a pint. Now, I don't expect you to remember this necessarily, but there's 2 cups in a pint, and there's 2 pints in a quart. So if I have cups, I could go to pints, and then I could go from pints to quarts, and then using this relationship, I can go to liters. You could do it a different way, but this is what I'm doing right now. So how many arrows? 3. So how many fractions? 3. So 1, 2, 3. That's going to equal something. I look at these units. Cup, pint, quart, liter. Those are the units that I write in my equation. Cup, pint, quart, liter. I take this unit, I want it to go away, I divide by it. So cup goes down here because I want those to cancel out. I need to get rid of pint, so I'm going to divide by pint here. Those cancel out. I need to get rid of quart, so I put quart down here, cancels out. It's almost like voodoo or something. Right? Now I put numbers in. Well, this is the one that was actually given. It's written out there, so that one's easy. So the 1 goes with liter, so it's 1 liter. And then in the denominator is the quarts, 1.057 quarts. You don't necessarily have to write down these conversion factors. Some people need to, some people don't. So here, pint and cup. This one I have in my head. I know that 1 pint is 2 cups. And I know that 1 quart is 2 pints. Now, some of you might remember that 1 quart is 4 cups, and you could combine those, but this is how we're doing it. So all the units are there, all the numbers are there, now we just do the math. 1.2 divided by 2, divided by 2, divided by 1.057 equals, how many sig figs should this answer have? 2. Our starting number has 2. This is exact, that's exact. This isn't exact, but this one has 4 sig figs. So I should have 2, so I'm going to write down 0.28. That's my 2 sig figs. 3.8. The unit is liters, and I'm going to round that to 0.28 liters. Any questions? Yes?
Why wouldn't the 1 liter to the quart be exact?
Okay, that's a good question. Why is this not exact? Because a liter is a metric unit and a quart is an English unit. And so there's no defined relationship. To find the relationship, you take a liter and you measure it in a quart thing, and it requires a unit of, an instrument of measure, and so there's uncertainty in it. Yeah. So anytime you go between metric and English systems, except for the inch and centimeter one, it's not exact. So shortcut for significant figure challenge students. What often happens is that the number of sig figs you start with is the number of sig figs you end up with. Not always, but if you're really having trouble with sig figs, that can get you through a lot of things. Okay, track measures, 1,056 feet per lap to run 15 kilometers. How many laps should you run? A mile is 5,280 feet. Now we're getting into some stories. Not very exciting stories. Not much plot here, but words and numbers, right? Eek. So I read the question, and I'm going to write down the numbers. So 1,056 feet per lap. Per is like a fraction. So 1,056 feet per lap. And then I've got 15.0 kilometers, and I've got, that's already written nicely, so I'm not going to write that down again. I've got this relationship. So I have to figure out, what number am I starting with? Do I start with this one, or do I start with that one? This one kind of looks like a conversion factor, doesn't it? It's got 2 units in here, feet and laps. This one doesn't have anything else, it's just kilometers. So usually the unit, the value you start with is the one with the single unit. So we've got 15.0 kilometers. I need a path. How do I get from kilometers to, what am I looking for? How many laps? Okay. Well, this gives me a relationship between feet and laps. So if I had feet, I could get to laps, right? Well, kilometers to feet. Well, here I've got miles and feet. So if I had miles, I could get to feet. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Well, can I get from kilometers to miles? I don't want a 1 there either. Well, I could look that up in a table. If we go back. Yeah, 0.6214 miles is equal to 1 kilometer. So there's my path. There are other ways to solve this problem. But regardless of how you solve it, we should end up with the same answer. Okay, so 3 arrows, 3 fractions. Kilometers to miles to feet to laps. So kilometers to miles to feet to laps. So kilometer goes down here, so we want to cancel that. Miles go down there. Feet. Oops. That was scary. Any questions? The hardest part is coming up with the path. How am I going to get there? After that, it's just following a pattern. So now I look at these units and I put the numbers in. So here's the relationship between kilometers and miles. 1 mile, 0.6214 kilometers. Feet and miles was given that. 1 mile, 5,280 feet. And there's 1,056 feet is equal to 1 lap. So now I just multiply and divide. Left to right, top to bottom. So we start here, multiply by the top, divide by the bottom, times the top, divide by the bottom, times the top, divide by the bottom. You don't have to write down intermediate numbers. Every time you write something down and punch it back into your calculator, you have an opportunity to make a mistake. It's better to just do it all together. So 15 times 1 divided by 0.6214 times 5280 divided by 1056 equals sig figs. How many? 3. 3 is correct, and 3 would be a good guess regardless. So 120, I'm getting 0.69. The next one would round that up, so I'm just going to write it down. 695 laps. This conversion factor is not exact because we have metric to English. Feet to miles, that's exact. 1 lap being 1,056 feet. Is that exact? How would you find out how far a lap is? You'd have to measure it. Even if they tried to make it exactly 1,056 feet, it was constructed. There's uncertainty. So that would be 4 sig figs. So here we have, and we'd round that off to 121 laps. Any questions?